We change other people's behavior by changing our own. Hello, MSA family, community, and friends. I'm Jimmy O'Brien,
I'm Marissa Eck.
And I'm Aisha Lee.
and welcome to the Behavior Beacon newsletter number 5. This is going to be a very special edition. It's going to be a little bit longer than usual. And in this content, we're going to be talking about dealing with some challenging behaviors. And there's going to be different sections. There's going to be 5 different sections that we're going to go over with you. So I'll hand it over to Marissa.
All right, everyone. So we're going to be talking, like Jimmy said, of how to deal with some challenging behavior at home. We do have a special note in here. The following suggestions that we're going to go over are not, and I repeat, are not for severe, dangerous, or self-stimulatory behavior. For those types of behaviors, we would likely need to come up with a more in-depth analysis for you and for your family, or if we were at school, with an individualized function-based treatment plan. And we would oversee that. So if you feel that that is necessary, please contact us and we will help you through that. So moving on, welcome to our 5th newsletter, dealing with some challenging behaviors at home. In our past newsletters, we have attempted to explain some of the basic principles with you guys of human behavior in order to give you some sort of foundation for this behavioral way of thinking, which is how we think on the behavior service team. We thought starting there was important for a number of reasons. Firstly, for you guys to understand these basic principles, it will make you a more informed and empowered parent, which is a huge goal for us. Secondly, it will allow you to understand and see why we, behavior analysts or behavior assistants, might suggest one thing over another. Thirdly, this will allow you to become more confident since you will be doing this at home. And you will know why we recommend things and how to then recommend them for yourself in your own contexts. Sometimes people have the tendency to throw the kitchen sink, as we say, at an issue, which means throwing kind of everything at it. And that can be really overwhelming and confusing and oftentimes contradictory. For an example of that, it would not be recommended to ignore challenging behavior if the payoff or consequence was to escape a task. We'll dive into that a little bit more as we go on, so it makes a little bit more sense. But this is an example of things that might be contradictory as far as recommendations go. Another example would be also trying to explain or talk to a child during a tantrum that might be attention maintained, like they want your attention, would not be recommended in those contexts. And we are going to dive into what those contexts are as we move forward. So I'm going to hand it off to Aisha here.
Okay, guys, so in this issue, we'll be describing some of the general situational scenarios that are typically evocative for challenging behavior. And some of these include my child wants something that I'm willing to give them, but they're engaging in challenging behavior right now. My child wants something that they cannot have. My child wants something that they have to wait for, and they're engaging in challenging behavior. My child doesn't want to do something I've asked, as well as I have no idea, it just happened out of nowhere. For each of these scenarios, we will be describing the learning history. How did it get learned? Proactive strategies, which is how to prevent these things from happening. Reactive strategies, responding to problem behavior, how we respond to it. Adaptive strategies, which are replacing problem behaviors, and some special considerations on what to expect during all of this.
Thanks, Aisha. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the tips of the week only because this will then help frame the different contextual or situational factors. There's going to be 5 different ones. So as we go through this, here's what we want you to remember as we go through each one of these scenarios. One, keep in mind that every behavior has a function, even if it occurs out of the blue. In behavior analysis, as a science, we believe that behavior is lawful. It's deterministic. Things happen for a reason, whether that's in the external environment or their internal environment. There are reasons why our learners do, or even ourselves do what we do. The second thing is pause before you react. In other words, before you're about to do something during challenging behavior or preventing it, take a pause, take a deep breath. And what you're trying to do there is number 3 is determine the contextual or situational factor that you're in. Understanding what context you are in will determine just very exactly what you need to do. In certain contexts, you will be paying attention to your learner. In other contexts, you might not. You might be even walking away. So it's very important to pause, assess, and then you'll know what to do in those particular things. Reach out to the behavior service team during these episodes. If you feel like, one of the special considerations that we'll talk about is that when behaviors no longer work or the payoff is not forthcoming, it will have a tendency to get worse before it gets better. It actually means it is getting better, but it can be very uncomfortable. We certainly recommend to call us, to reach out to us, Zoom us, and we will work you through some of those difficult times if you hit a level of uncomfortability. Also, lastly, if you're in a context or a situation that doesn't apply to what we're going to outline, then immediately, again, contact the behavior service department, and we will go through with you, which is actually known as a functional behavioral assessment, where we can actually devise for you in a very specific, individualized intervention plan. Okay, so that's a lot to digest. Let's get started.